Hello everyone, my name is Fatima Mahmood. Welcome and welcome back to my channel. This video reflects my own views and opinions, no one else's, and it's not been pre-approved or endorsed by any federal agency or other employer, academic program, or membership association. This is my series on federal application tips that might appear different or unusual to other folks. When I mean application, I'm using that as an umbrella term for the whole hiring process. Today's topic is structured behavioral interviews, sometimes also referred to as structured interviews. The target audience for this series and this video are job seekers seeking federal government positions and current federal government employees. However, employees at the local and state government levels may also benefit from this information, as well as those in the nonprofit and private sectors. I believe that I should only make videos or write articles or share information about topics that I already know about, and so I've had direct experience with first round structural behavioral interviews, and it's just the first round, so I'm only going to talk about first round. If you are applying for a job and your resume gets through and you receive an interview invitation, they should tell you that it's a structured interview or structured behavioral interview. If they don't tell you up front, it's okay for you to ask if it will be that type of interview. I think there are definite federal agencies that are using this. I would suspect it's going to increase. I can't say at this time that every federal agency uses it, or that every federal agency uses it for every position that they're hiring. That is not a very senior position. So if you want to learn more about federal structured interviews, also called structured behavioral interviews, you can Google it, you can read up and educate yourself. You may be part of professional organizations that do specific teach-ins or webinars about it. I'm going to take you to an OPM website. So here's OPM, the Office of Personnel Management's own website that answers what is a structured interview. And I'll give you the link to this in the YouTube description. A structured interview is an assessment methodology designed to measure job-related competencies by systematically inquiring about a candidate's behavior in past experiences and in proposed hypothetical situations. Structured interviews use a standardized questioning and scoring process for all candidates. Okay, so this first sentence, sometimes when you have these official government answers on websites, you wonder, like, is it people's real experience? And different people in government can help you with that. So far, this has been my experience. So this first sentence, it's about looking at past behavior and in proposed hypothetical situations. I'm sure nonprofits and private sector use that, so that's not a big shock. But the standardized questioning and scoring, I think that is definitely not, I wouldn't say unique to federal government, but that's what we're using. Down here, they talk about that one of the reasons we're using a panel of interviewers is to reduce the risk of bias in ratings and allows for a diverse range of interviewers, indicating to the candidate that the organization values diversity and fair treatment. So that's a important thing for you to read and understand. In federal hiring, there's always a concern about past lawsuits of discrimination, etc., and the need to protect the process and make it free from discrimination, and to get that increased fair leveling playing field in the government hiring process, given America's history in federal hiring. So again, they talk about there's going to be a panel, so there's going to be multiple people, and all interviewers must come to a consensus on the rating scores they give a candidate. So that's the final score, and it's the final score for that round. And a panel of interviewers may be better able to document and interpret their information. I sort of agree with that. Other people may or may not agree with that. So they have a separate OPM website, so definitely go ahead and check that out. So I've experienced structured behavioral interviews in a couple different ways. Here are some of the recent ones. So in my workplace, I and other paralegals were invited to participate in those panels for attorney hiring. So we'd be interviewing an attorney candidate, and it's the round one. That may not be the case in many agencies, where they take someone in a junior position or a different position and have them participate in the round one structured interviews for a particular job opening. But that's what I had the fortunate opportunity to be a part of. And even more recently, people outside my agency have been coming to me and asking for advice and wanting to talk to me about their experience with structured behavioral interviews. And I've had those meetings, I've listened to what they said, and based on that content and that information, I created this video. So the panelists or the interviewers, they're all supposed to get training, and that could be a virtual training, in person. They're all supposed to get documents and guidance in writing so they can refer back to it and refresh their memories. And they will get scripts for that round of interviewing for that position. So when the OPM website was talked about standardized questions, what that really means is the same exact questions will be asked to all interviewees in the same exact orders. Now, let's say there's 5 questions and there's 5 panelists. Hypothetically, each panelist might take one. And if those panelists are working together and interviewing multiple candidates over different times, they might switch up, which panelists get question 1, which one gets 2. But same exact question asked in the same exact way to every single candidate, so we reduce the risk of bias. And also in the training documents, they also going to talk about different ways that human beings bring bias into an evaluation process. So when we talk about standardized question, we talk about the script. Here's my best understanding. So let's call the program office the office that's actually going to hire the person where they're going to work, whether it's an investigative office or a policy office or a research office. That's the program office. And then you have human resources or human capital. So these predetermined questions are going to be written or have a strong influence by people outside the program office. Maybe people in the program office are involved in writing the questions, but other people not working in that office, not doing that position's work, will be involved in writing these questions. And if follow-up questions are needed, those will be pre-written as well. So the interviewers cannot deviate from the scripted questions or the scripted follow-ups. That's it, and that's one methodology to reduce bias in the whole process and create a level playing field. Sometimes there is an opening question and it's not rated, it's not scored, and an example of that could be, why do you want to work here specifically? So they don't just mean the agency, they mean that particular program office. So here's what it looks like from my perspective being a panelist and from people who are coming to me outside of my agency and wanting to talk about their experience being interviewed through the structured method. So if you're virtual, you're on a virtual platform, the webcams, the videos are on, and you're an interviewee and you're looking at 4 or 5 people. But these 4 or 5 people are on their computers, and in addition to looking to you, they are looking at an open document that is the official guidance and is the official script, written each question exactly how they have to read it out loud. So sometimes it can appear as if people are always looking down and not looking at you. Other times, once you've answered a question, they will be typing notes exactly as you are saying it, and they might be scoring you exactly right after you do that question because they want it to have a fresh idea in their mind and they want to capture that. So again, people could not be looking, or you could be hearing typing and you're wondering if people are a bit distracted. They have to record their impressions, they have to write down what you said, and they have to score you pretty quickly. Here are the top things that people come and tell me about. So they're saying that this structured behavioral interview process for them feels very awkward because compared to an in-person interview where you're not using this format, there's a little bit less interpersonal give and take. And that sort of also depends on the personality of the interviewers. A I feel like I've worked with someone who was able to do a lot of visual give and take with an interviewee, even though we're using these very structured questions and you're typing notes exactly as they write them and you're scoring them. Other feedback I've received is the feeling that the interviewee has to be very careful with their answers. So a interview question could be like, well, what's your experience like with this? And, or give an example of a time when you did this. So what happens is, generally most of us, we can't reveal too many things about our past employer. We can't reveal too many things about projects we've worked on, our past work environments. That's a general experience a lot of us come across. So interviewees have felt and told me that they have to be really careful because the way the questions are asked can create an impression that to answer it successfully, they have to reveal details that they otherwise cannot. For example, if you're an attorney and you work in a law firm, you can't reveal client information, but you want to answer this question in a certain amount of detail. So it's a very delicate balance that people are feeling that are happening with this format that maybe if it was a more conversational format, it'd be easier to convey this information. So again, this is what people are coming to me and telling me. Another thing I've been doing is I've helped people prepare for their structured interview by looking at their USA job posting, and I mentor them before the actual interview happens, and then I ask them to take notes and I ask them to give me feedback on what happened during the interview and which of my suggestions worked out and which didn't. The key thing here is never over prepare for an interview, because something that can happen is you can come off as too rehearsed, too stiff, and a little bit less like human, a little bit less like a person. You still want to come across as a real person, a conversational person, a person people can talk to. So over preparing for whatever reason, or maybe you're nervous, can actually hurt you in some instances. So be careful of that. Here's one example of how I mentored someone. This is a USA jobs posting, and I always save the link, or I always record the link to the actual job posting. I'm not going to go in reveal, the agency or the office or the actual name of this position. But what I'll focus on is when I was helping them, I asked them to give me the full job posting in a PDF. I didn't want a part of it, I wanted the whole thing. And instead of going at the top, I went looking for this section called How You Will Be Evaluated. And to me, the fact that it was laid out like this showed me that it was probably going to be a structured behavioral interview, even if that person somehow wasn't told yet that it would be that interview. So this is how you're going to be rated for this position. You're going to be rated on subject matter expertise, written communications, building inclusive relationships, providing quality results, and analytical thinking. So when I think about how this was like for me as a panelist, each of these would be a subject header for a question, and then a question about this bucket or this topic would follow. So I advise the person that one question will likely be, give us an example where you were a subject matter expertise in the topics that we described in the job posting, right? So it'll be written out a little bit differently, but basically they want you to show them an example when you were subject matter expertise in this or related area. Another question is going to be, give us an example, tell us an example or a time when you used your written communication skills to convey something difficult to other people. Okay, so I made this next suggestion, but it didn't come up, but it's a valid thing to prepare for, even if it didn't come up. Give an example of how you build inclusive relationships in the workplace. Okay, next one, providing quality results. Give an example of how you get results from data and check it, and how do you convey that data and its meaning to other people. Another example, give us an example of your analytical thinking skills. So these are broad guesses, but you can take those broad guesses and then you can match it, and you can look at the applicant's resume, or the applicant should do this, and think, okay, which of my experiences demonstrates these subject headers? And also, after you look at this section, you should also go back and look at the qualification sections and look at the duty sections and try to think about and even write it out or copy and paste it into another document. Okay, they're saying this duty, they're saying this qualification. Okay, does it relate to subject matter? Does it relate to written communications, building inclusive relationships, quality results, analytical thinking? So some of those duties and expectations or qualifications may not fit into these boxes. That's fine. Again, all of this is about round 1. So more and more of those duties and details may be discussed in future rounds. I hope it's already been clear from this example I showed you that round 1 questions are potentially not about the specific things you already wrote about in your resume or your cover letter if you were allowed to do one and you did it. So it's not specific to your resume. So then the role of the interviewee is to answer these questions by also bringing in details from their resume, details from their cover letter, details from their past work experience. So the goal of getting through round 1 is to hopefully get to the next round. I can't say if it's going to be round 2, round 3. It can vary by the agency, it could vary by the job position. And my hope is, though I have no direct experience with this, that the questions become more specific to you and more specific to your resume, cover letter, writing sample if you provide one, as the rounds increase. I'm making a choice to stop here in my advice because I'm generally against people giving advice based on random ideas they have and not based on experience they've had, rather directly or a little indirectly. So in the future, I might do another structured behavioral interview video. There might be these videos out there already. I'm just sharing with you what I've recently experienced and what people come and talk to me about. So I hope this helped you learn more about structured behavioral interviews. Thank you for watching my video. I'd love to hear from you on email at fmahmood@wellesley.edu. You can also find me on LinkedIn at that address. And if you do send me a connection request, please go ahead and send me a note. Before you go, please like, comment, share, and subscribe to my channel. I'd really appreciate it. And please go ahead and watch my next video. Thank you.